I gave one of these cakes a 6 out of 10. My family gave it a 10. After baking 3 recipes from Snacking Cakes by Yossy Arefi, I thought this book was underwhelming. Then I realized I was judging it by the wrong standard. That disagreement completely changed how I see this book and whether I think it's actually worth buying. Hey everyone, welcome back to Cookbook Reviewer. Today I'm reviewing Snacking Cakes by Yossy Arefi. But before we get into the recipes, you need to understand what a snacking cake actually is, because once that clicked for me, this entire cookbook made a lot more sense. A snacking cake, the way Yossy Arefi describes it, is a single layer cake with a simple frosting or no frosting at all. That's easy to make. Someone else described it as a quick, lightly sweet tea time treat rather than a rich or elaborate dessert. And I think that's exactly right. And that distinction matters more than you think. This is not a book of showstopper cakes. This isn't the book you grab when you need a 3-layer birthday cake that makes everybody gasp when you walk it out. This is a cake that just sits on your counter, and every time you walk past it, you cut off another slice. It's casual, it's everyday, it's low stakes. Once you understand that, you understand who this book is for and whether it's going to let you down. If you're expecting something decadent, you're probably going to be disappointed. But if you want something easy, homemade, lightly sweet cake without a lot of fuss, this book delivers exactly that. Quick note, if you're new here, every recipe gets 2 scores. CPR stands for cussing per recipe, and it's how frustrating the recipe was to make. Lower is better, so a 1 means everything went smoothly, easy to make, and then there's an outcome score where higher is better based on how the finished cake actually turned out. At the end, I combine those scores with my overall thoughts on the cookbook for one final score. One disclaimer before we start, I'm much more comfortable cooking than baking, so I'll be honest when I think something might be my own lack of baking experience rather than the recipe itself. And one baking note, the bake times in this book consistently ran long for me. I started checking my cakes well before the recipe suggested, and I found plenty of other bakers online saying the same thing. So if you bake from this book, I'd recommend checking your cakes early. The first thing I made was the Espresso chocolate chip cake, CPR of 2. This one was easy, barely any dishes, nothing tricky, and no real effort. Outcome of 6, but my family gave it a 10. This is the cake that started the debate. For me, it was a 6, good, enjoyable, but it didn't wow me. My family, though, absolutely loved it. The reason? Nostalgia. It reminded them of muffins we used to buy years ago, and suddenly they weren't just tasting the cake, they were remembering something they loved. And that's when this cookbook finally clicked for me. These cakes aren't trying to impress you, they're trying to comfort you. They're the kind of cakes that quietly disappears over a few days because everyone keeps cutting just one more slice. Whether that deserves a 6 or a 10 depends a lot on who's eating it. Recipe number 2 was my best carrot cake as muffins. This had a CPR score of 3. This one earns a 3 because of the carrots. Even with a food processor, grating them adds extra work and another thing to wash. If you're doing it by hand, I'd score the frustration even higher. For the outcome, on their own, these muffins were another 6. Then I ignored the cookbook. Yossy suggests whipped toppings, either cream fresh or honey whipped. Neither sounded appealing to me, so I used the cream cheese frosting from Claire Saffit's Dessert Person, a recipe I've made more than 15 times. That frosting took these muffins from a 6 to a 10, but that's also a complicated win. The cakes deserve credit, the frosting deserves credit too. So when I scored the cookbook later, I'm judging the recipe as written, not with my modification. The third recipe I made was a black and blueberry ricotta cake. This had a CPR score of 2, another very easy recipe, with an outcome of 5. This one was the biggest disappointment. It wasn't bad, it just felt like something was missing. I served it to company and they had the same reaction. Nobody disliked it, nobody wanted another slice either. With ricotta and berries, 2 ingredients I love, I expected more than a perfectly forgettable cake. So here's my takeaway. Snacking cake succeeds because it delivers exactly what it promises. The recipes are approachable, most of the ingredients are pantry staples, the instructions are simple, and the whole concept, a cake you casually snack on throughout the week, is genuinely appealing. What this book doesn't deliver is spectacular desserts. By my scoring, these cakes mostly landed between a 5 and a 6. They're good, they're comforting, they're reliable, they're just not extraordinary. And once I stopped expecting extraordinary, I appreciated the book much more. The recipe scores averaged out to 5.7 out of 10. For book quality, I'm giving it an 8. The photography is beautiful, the concept is strong, the recipes are approachable, the variations add value. My biggest complaint is the bake times. The recipe scores averaged to 5.7 out of 10. For book quality, I'm giving it an 8. The photography is beautiful, the concept is strong, the recipes are genuinely approachable, the variations add value. My biggest complaint is the bake times. Putting everything together gives this cookbook a final score of 6.7 out of 10. This is because recipe quality is 70% and book quality is 30%. For me, that's a solid recommendation, but only if you're looking for simple, everyday cakes. And remember what I said at the beginning. My family rated every single one of these cakes higher than I did. That doesn't mean they're wrong. It means this is exactly the kind of cookbook where your own tastes matter more than my numbers. That's my review of Snacking Cakes by Yossy Arefi. If you've baked from this book, let me know your favorite recipe in the comments and tell me if your family loved a cake that you didn't. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like and subscribe for more honest cookbook reviews. Thanks for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next one.